Can we do that?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fish and Grits, the podcast. As always, I'm Ryan, joined by my two very esteemed co-hosts. Marco, how you doing today, sir?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing all right, getting by. Micah, how are you?
Trying to live a dream, brother.
I hear you. I hear you. We got some good news today, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 for posterity. And today we're welcoming to the show a very special guest, one who shares many connections to the show. He is a multi-talented human driven by passion for maximizing innate potential in himself and others. He combines the skills acquired through life experiences as a Division I student athlete, therapist and licensed psychologist, educator, artist, and consultant into action with aims to enhance the well-being of our human community. Please welcome to the show a very special guest, Dr. REUBEN FALOUGhi.
Hello, everybody.
That was quite
We can see you,
entrance.
we can hear you, but can't see you. Why is that?
Dr. REUBEN Falloughi.
Well, there, y'all can see him right here, so let's turn him on.
Or is he visible now?
Hey, we can see him there, but not there. So, well, you know what? We'll keep it at the forefront for this. Now everyone can see you, REUBEN.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Hey, Ryan, Micah, Marco. It's a pleasure to be here. Hey, Fish and Grits audience listeners. I feel blessed to be here, so thank you.
We are also feel blessed to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate you coming.
So what's up? Like, how y'all be doing this thing? I seen a couple episodes. Y'all keep it light on here.
Yeah, we keep it real light. We don't like to get too, well, when the time calls for it, we will dive into the more serious topics. You know, episodes like 4 through 10, about this time last year, we dove straight in and we attacked it. So
Yeah, there's heaviness, like from episode to episode. There's heavy topics, there's light topics, but we just try to keep our perspectives diverse, so people can get what they need. It's a little fish, a little grits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I came close to getting canceled last week, so
yeah,
You sure did.
You did. You towed the line there, Micah. We were like, well, it was a good run, Micah. We're moving ahead as a twosome.
We were going off the tracks.
Yeah.
Me and Marco were like, hold on, let's reel this one back in.
Too real for TV sometimes,
Right. But I mean, that's the beauty of having a group of people with divergent opinions. That's the beauty. And so we're typically when we do these interviews, we like to get to know the guest on a deeper level, and we usually start with where you came from and your youth. So I want to ask you, who were you as a young REUBEN? Like, tell people where you were from, what kind of things you were interested in, and just a little bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Well, I came from my mom. So I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia, and I also spent a chunk of my youth in Atlanta, so I saw some different flavors and vibes. I think the biggest thing in my childhood, at least when I talk about my story, is growing up in a Nigerian household where Nigerian values were fused in me, for better or worse, for all my Nigerians out there. But I remember there just being strong values of community, respect, education, discipline, and I've carried those with me. But growing up, I grew up with 5 sisters, and I was the only boy, and so that was an intense. I saw a lot of girl fights. I saw a lot of interesting things that I don't know if a lot of guys ever will see. Right. But I definitely saw models of strong women, and I think being the only boy, in some ways, I also felt like an only kid, even though there was a lot of family, a lot of my sisters. I sometimes had my own space, and so I would just kind of do my own thing, and so I felt independent in a lot of ways. And I was into, like, people know I play sports and such, but I didn't play sports young. Like, I actually was into computers and video games, and flight simulators. Like,
I was about to say, I
to,
heard some flight simulator stories, man.
yeah, I used to want to be a pilot, so I have my lights off in the room, flying planes and stuff. And yeah, that's what I remember up until like 7th grade, where we moved. So we were in Atlanta living for several years, and then we moved to Augusta, Georgia. And then all my new friends, they weren't into computers and flight simulators. They were playing sports. Right. So that's how I would find my way into athletics and begin my athletic journey.
Right. So that you pretty much just answered the next question, because for people who don't know, this is my cousin. We go back a lifetime, a whole lifetime. So,
hey,
hey,
you remember Marco? Hey, I got to just tell the podcast. Like,
what's up?
Cousin Marco, they used to have all the video games. So every time we used to go over there, it was like video game heaven. You had the computer. I think you had the N64.
Right.
And
the emulators. I had the N64.
The emulators flipped the game on the head. Like, I love that. So yeah, it's good to have family on here, and you already know part of the story because you were a part of it. You were my role model coming up.
oh, I'm humbled. But so I was gonna say, so knowing you, I know that the things that we were into might by some be deemed like nerdy. So I was pretty much gonna ask, like you just sort of alluded to, what made you go from like such an eclectic mix of interests to sports, and then I was gonna say, which ones did you play, and were you a natural early, or did it take a lot of work to get to how good you got?
Yeah, triple barrel question. My memory might not be that good, so if I don't get to some of that, just ask it again, okay?
For sure.
I don't feel like it was this either or thing. Like I was going the nerdy route or going the athletic route. I actually felt like it was more and in both. I think by virtue of like just social status and social identity development, it's like, hold on, my friends are playing sports. Like, I at least got to try. I want to be around them. I want to hang around them. This is what the cool kids are doing. Let me see what I'm made of. But the only thing is, I never had practice. Like I wasn't really playing outside like that. I wasn't like playing basketball or football. Right. I really wasn't even into it. So I didn't have the framework. I was just like, they're doing it. Let me try. Right. And I remember 7th grade basketball tryouts. I was bad. I was very bad.
Was anyone really good in 7th grade though?
No, there were some kids who were good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, compared to me, relatively. I mean, so I went out, I missed football tryouts just because of the timing, getting acclimated to a new school in 7th grade. And so basketball was, the one that was available. And one of my good friends, Brandon McClatty, he's one of my first friends I made. And he was like a stud. Like everybody knew him, everybody knew his parents. And I'm like, shoot, Brandon's playing, I'm gonna try too. And I couldn't dribble. I remember people were laughing at me because I couldn't make a layup. See, look at Marco laughing at me now.
No, because I can relate. Anyone who hoops know when you start, it's rough, but
boy.
And then I was a big kid. I was tall still, so I think people assumed that I would be athletic, but the data was not confirming that.
So when did you get that height? When did you reach your maximum height, or at least to a point where you were clearly taller? Like when did you hit the 6 foot mark?
No, I don't even remember. I think so. On my social media is Big Rube 9'5", Big Rube, like. That came from being a bigger kid in middle school and high school. Right, so I don't know how it happened, but it just kind of stuck.
Right. But it never changed.
Yeah, some things never changed. But on that story with the basketball tryouts, because this was a catalyst for everything else. Mm-hmm. Because after tryouts, the cut list was posted. And I'll never forget that day. I remember how I felt just not seeing my name on the cut list. I was hurt. I don't think I'd experienced that kind of, we'll call it failure, up at any point in my life. I might have crashed a plane in a flight simulator, or got cussed out by my parents, but nothing where it's like I tried something, wanted it, and didn't get it because of my performance and/or ability.
Right.
And I mean, I think we're around the same age, if not older. Mike, I don't know how old you are. We don't have to out you, but
Ryan and I are the same age.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're about 5 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I got no shame.
Y'all scared with age. Y'all scared of aging or something?
No,
I mean,
like
I'm
my
31.
age.
I'm not ashamed of being
30.
31.
I'm 35.
Okay, so cool. So y'all remember at least a time where kids would play outside and ride bikes. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was me too. And so, me and my friends, we would be, we had one of my friends, his name was Derez. He had he had a big yard. He had a basketball. It was basically like the training facility of the neighborhood.
Right.
And folks, they would be out there playing, but little did they know, Reuben was training. Like I was trained. I was going hard. Like every day was like I'm working out for tryouts. And so that whole year I grinded. Like it just hurt me to know that all my friends were playing sports and I wasn't. And so that next year I made all the sports teams.
Yeah.
But the lesson in that for me was, all right, just because you don't have the outcome you want doesn't mean that things are over. You can invest hard work and accomplish the things you want with time, but it takes hard work. And so I think that's when the switch flipped for me about hard work and really controlling what happens outside of me by what I commit to inside of me.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, not many 6th and 7th graders are that philosophical.
Well, I don't think it was that
way ahead of your times there, Ruben.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself
I think
short.
I connected the dots later, but that
Right.
was what was happening.
Right. You were figuring it out along the way, but that's like how it broke down essentially. So how long were you on the basketball team? Were you there on all the teams till senior year, or did you quit some until then?
So I didn't make basketball 7th grade year. I don't think I played another. I can't remember what sport I played. All I knew was football and basketball were the ones that all my friends were playing and getting attention.
Yeah.
What were you, a 3?
But that next year,
a 4?
I'm sorry.
What were you, a 3 or a 4?
In basketball?
Yeah.
Oh, I was 5.
You were a 5?
Yeah, I was assuming you'd be a 5.
How tall are you?
Yeah, I was bigger than everybody. That was before they started putting all the hormones and stuff in food. Where kids
7th grader, 7 feet tall. Good God.
Kids are being born ready for the league. What do you mean?
Right.
They're being manufactured for the league.
Facts. So I think I played football, basketball, and then I think track and soccer every year after that. And I think once I got to senior year of high school, I think I definitely stopped track. And I think I might have done soccer on and off. I can't remember. I do, but
really? I didn't know you were a soccer player. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was a journey. Because I was like, all right, there's no other sport that I really, really like. So let me just do something where I can stay in shape. I was playing keeper, so I was working on my hands for playing tight end and such.
Mm-hmm.
Man, look, you were putting it all together. You're like, okay, I'm gonna be out here. I like that.
By any means necessary.
I mean, hey. So moving more to the football side of everything, when was it that you really started to gain traction at your high school? So Evans is where you went to high school, correct?
Facts,
Pretty good football program, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Wait, so what was it like being one of the better players on the team, obviously, or were you one of the better players on the team? And what was it like being a highly sought after recruit?
So we got to go back.
Rewind
Yeah. So Evans High, it has a solid football program, but I wouldn't say that they're like IMG or like
they're not
renowned nationally football program. If anything, baseball is the sport for that region. And so what was happening is, I came in, people knew who I was, and I had I was developing a reputation, but really I only had 1 year of football in 8th grade. And so I was still green. And so that meant, I was playing JV. It wasn't like I was a freshman ready for varsity.
Right.
And I still had a lot of things that I think people saw, whether it was the size, whether it was my passion, whether it's leadership. My teammates all like me, and I like them for the most part. Most of them. You can't like everybody, but most people. And so what was happening is we had some older guys who started getting looked at by Division I AA schools. I'll never forget, it was Jonathan Nicely and Trey Henderson. I think freshman, sophomore year. And it's like, wow, they got coaches from these big schools coming to school. I mean, it was kind of like they would come in the lunchroom would like shift, like, who are those coaches? And so I think that's when it first started to hit me. It was like, whoa, like this can be a way to play sports and go to college, because college was already in my head from my upbringing,
Yeah.
But it was like connecting the dots. It's like, oh, I can try this. But the only thing is, my football program, we weren't really putting out D1 athletes like that. So it was kind of like I had to do it by myself. So it's like, all right, Ruben, you gotta figure this out. And like, I didn't have a parent who played college football. And so there were a lot of systemic things that I had no clue about, making a highlight tape, going to camps. And so eventually I would kind of catch on and I would start going to some camps. And I don't know if there's another question, or did I answer the rest of that question?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. And that'll, the leftover will lead me into the next question. So as you build up to that time, rebuild that situation where 17, 18-year-old Ruben is sitting at home and that offer letter comes in. What was that like?
Didn't happen like that.
It didn't. Okay, so what was your journey to UGA football?
Yeah, so and that's why I stopped. What was happening is, as I started to move into my sophomore, junior year, my coaches started to see that I was I could ball a little bit. And I was getting the respect of my teammates, starting to play varsity more, starting to play more. And the looks that I was getting were from smaller schools, D3, I would get letters, D2, D1, AA, I thought it was a big deal that Savannah State coaches were coming to our school.
I mean, they put out NFL products.
It was.
Yeah. So I was excited about it all. But what was happening was, in my head, I'm like, why in the state school coming, Georgia?
Yeah.
And I knew it was far-fetched, but my sister here went to Georgia ahead of me, Raina, for y'all who know my sister. She went to Georgia and she would give me signed balls from the football players. So it wasn't a far-fetched idea completely, but I was in my soul, I was like, dang, like Georgia's not saying nothing. And so I don't know. Actually, I probably do know what it is. It's just me saying, I don't know. Do y'all cuss?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All of our episodes are marked explicit.
Maybe I shouldn't for the exercise. But, I had this attitude where it's like, fuck it, let me just do this. And so I remember going onto the website, UGA website, and they had a recruiting questionnaire. And I just filled it out for myself. And then a couple weeks later, I remember we were playing football in weightlifting class. And they were like, Ruben, look, like, and so they pointed to the benches, not the bench. What do you call the stadium?
Bleachers.
The bleachers, yeah. And I saw this old white man with this Georgia polo. What the hell is going on? I'm hyped. I mean, I don't know if this is for somebody else or what, but either way, this is like big for Evans. Like, nobody see UGA coaches ever there, at least in mine, since I was there. Long story short, I ended up going to meet him, and he's saying that, he got my stuff and he was interested in me coming to a camp. And I was just struck. I'm like, oh, snap. And, everybody in school is hyped too. They're like, what? Georgia coaches? Really? Because it's football is different in Georgia, right? It's like a cult. And so that would take me to my first camp at UGA. And I was like, dang, these cats are huge. Like, I'm like, what have they been lifting? What have they been doing? And I realized just how and this is not a knock to my coaches, but other coaches were coached better than me, and they came from stronger programs. You could tell, like they were doing techniques and stuff. I thought I was just balling, like my heart.
Just going for it.
Yeah. And after the camp, his name was Coach Fabris. That's the older white guy. He was like, look, he told me straight up, he's like, look, you're green. We're not going to offer you a scholarship. And he was like, but I do see potential in you, and I could get you here as a preferred walk-on. And I was like, on one hand, I'm like, my ego is hurt. I'm like, damn, he just said I was sorry. He didn't say I was sorry. He said I was green, which is different, right?
Yeah.
And then he also gave me an avenue to get to one of the largest state school in the state, and with the most prestige. And so at that time, I had a full ride offer to the University of Furman, or Furman University.
The Christian Knights.
I
said then the Christian Knights.
The Paladins.
Yeah. Now they're the Paladins.
Paladins.
No, they were Paladins back then.
Oh, they were. Are you sure?
They were. Yeah, because when I was going.
Oh, that's right. Reuben is younger. That's right.
My
fault.
The Paladins.
I'm old.
Older. So I had a full, fast forward, I had a full ride to Furman or preferred walk on. Basically, I'm playing for free at UGA. And that was one of the trickiest decisions that I have to make. And I really shout out my family with this. Sorry, for allowing me to make that decision on my own. Like, I knew that it probably wasn't going to be helpful for my family financially to be paying my tuition.
Right.
So the full ride made sense. I knew Furman had a strong medical program, because at that time I thought I was going to be a medical doctor, a psychiatrist. More on that later. But yeah, basically my thought process was like, I'm never going to see Furman on ESPN, like just never. And I don't want to be at practice at Furman having regrets about what I could have done at Georgia. And so there goes that fuck it attitude again. Fuck it. Really, it's courage. It's not, what I'm describing is courage to lean into things that are scary. And I said, I'm just going to go to Georgia and bet on myself. Right. And that,
just for clarity, real quick, what position was it that you went to camp for, or what position were you playing in high school through this time?
So high school, I was playing tight end, and I was also playing defensive end, mostly defensive end, but kind of linebacker. And when I went to camp, I was doing like working with the defensive ends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, that's kind of the journey.
Okay.
I don't know how much detail to give or not. So yeah, I'm just.
We'll take it all.
We like all the details. We like all the
So fast forward a little bit when you're actually on the campus at Georgia. So how was it with the pressure of being a collegiate athlete at such a program like Georgia?
It's deep. There's so many layers to that question. I think. Woo.
So I take that it was an overwhelming experience at times.
That's good. You seem like a psychologist reading that emotion. We love to see that. Yeah, I think it was overwhelming in the sense for a variety of reasons. One, to be at the university that I've seen on TV so many Saturdays that my sister was so passionate, like almost like annoyingly passionate about. It was kind of surreal to finally be a student there and actually be on the football team. Mm-hmm. And I've been on the football team. I've been an athlete in high school, but this was different. Like to have the facilities we had, to have the prestige we had, to finally be wearing the G for myself, it was an honor. It was an honor. And there was a lot of stuff that I could have never been prepared for. I think it's just like any identity. You go through an identity development process. And then, as I said, at Georgia, I started to learn that there were ugly parts of this experience, like seeing where my teammates would come from, the communities that they would come from, and how they valued education. It was foreign to me. It was like, why do we need people to check if we go to class? Like, I'm going to be in class anyways. Part of it because I'm paying my tuition at that point. Part of it's because I'm invested in a different way. But another part is because and this is where it hit me. It was all coming together. The way my parents raised me, I valued education. And that was my way out. My teammates, in many instances, their parents didn't give them those same values. And so football was the exit. Academic was like secondary or third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. It wasn't always prioritized. So that was a big thing. And then another thing that I realized was just how much these systems control you and the conflicting messages. So y'all will get a kick out of this. My freshman year, one of the meetings, before practice, we did like some character development where we spent like 5 minutes talking about how to be a better person and such. And one of my coaches, he was kind of talking about what it meant to be a student athlete. And he was like, it's school first, football. So check it out. If y'all can see, I'm holding up 2 fingers.
I was like, did Ruben forget what one was?
School first, football second. But just think as a freshman athlete, like, what the hell is he saying? Because I know his hand's saying something different.
Right.
And something different coming out of his mouth. But looking back, and as I would mature through the program, I understood. It was like, oh, I'm here to generate revenue. Academics really isn't the priority. Now, that's not for everybody, but by large, that is the norm. And I'm glad that happened because later on, I describe football like a relationship. I was deeply in love. And that love grew from having an outlet for a lot of the things I was going through at the time, the community of sports, that competitive competition, that competitive nature. That built passion and love for the game. And that brought me to college, and that fueled a lot of, that would eventually fuel me getting a scholarship, like a grind. And the relationship changed as I started to see the politics behind it. And, I started to feel like I was a slave, practice stopped becoming fun. I started to see how much money coaches and athletic department staff were making, and then how we weren't making anything.
Mm-hmm.
That don't seem right.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not right.
So we need to get your opinion on that later. I think we know where it lies, but
right. Were you were you growing up? Were you into football? Like, were you a big Georgia fan prior to going to Georgia? Were you into like those kind of like watching college football and watching NFL and stuff from young?
Did Raina give you a choice?
Hey, that's a good question. I don't know if I got a choice, but I think I found an affinity for Georgia football. I think I became a Georgia football fan because I would. One thing about me, I didn't always have it, so to speak, but I always had the curiosity and the drive to get it. Mm-hmm. And so with football, I would watch what they're doing on TV. I was like, how can I add this to my game? Or how can? Yeah. And I remember Leonard Pope. I remember who else was playing? Quentin Moses. I mean, there were just a lot of Georgia players that I would be like, dang, I like them, or they're already hyped up, and so I would try to emulate their game. So I was a fan.
So let me ask you, what was your most memorable moment at UGA?
Football and not football related.
On and off the field.
Dang. All right, let me do on the field first. Woo! 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 SEC championship, Alabama losing.
Yeah.
Losing. I've never seen pain like. I mean, it's all relevant. It's still a game. Sure. And I ain't see. That was a heartbreaker.
Chris Conley making the catch, and it was just like, no, that's the one you want to drop. No.
So that one was tough because I think that was when Notre Dame went to the Natty.
Yeah, and whoever won that game was going to win the national championship.
The most undeserving.
Yeah.
And so that one hurt because the line is so thin between losing and winning at that point. You
Yeah.
know, a handful of plays, 4 or 5 plays can change the turnout of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I remember we were getting smacked. It was actually a miracle that we were still in the game. And it's a game. They call it a game of inches for a reason. So I think that's my most memorable moment, actually.
Okay.
Just losing that game and that pain, and going into the locker room and seeing just the grief.
Yeah.
Devastation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I was annoyed that I didn't play as much as I thought I could have or should have. But,
Yeah.
That's why y'all put that L.
Hey,
Hey.
there's this weird thing when you play team sports when like the team loses, but you feel like you're winning because they're not playing you. And like I definitely had some of that.
You ain't gonna see me on the bad film.
Hey, y'all was being.
Who was their running back that year? God, I forgot who they're running. There was it Lacey?
Lacey, I feel like it was Lacey.
Oh my God. I just remember it was like every time we come down to score, Lacey would get the ball and just do a huge run. It was like, oh my, can we stop this guy, please? No.
Alabama got them cornbread fed humans. Like, them boys
true.
big.
Oh man. Damn. Yeah.
And you could tell a team by their swagger. Like they got a winning swagger. I respect that program so much because I know what it takes to win, and they got that formula.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about 2 other people.
Well, you didn't say off field, by the way. You didn't say.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah. You wanna answer that off field memory?
Yeah, I'll give it to you real quick. Yeah, it was my sophomore year. So after we went 6 and 7 my freshman year, and somebody had to get scapegoated. So they fired all the defensive coaches, and we got Todd Grantham, who is now at UF in Florida. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about him when he came is he was like, everybody gets a fresh slate. Everybody's even. And that's all I need as a walk-on. That was like music, because I don't care what anybody says. Walk-ons, it's a second-class citizenship on the team. Mm-hmm. I mean, in many instances, they are practice dummies. And so the crazy thing is my teammates, because of how hard I was going, like in the weight room and when we would do conditioning, they didn't know I was a walk-on for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so I had the respect of my teammates, but it was like the coaches, if they don't want to look at you, they don't, who are you? And so when I got that fresh start with Grantham's staff, it was eat time, eat. So that spring, at the end of spring ball, we do a banquet where we sit with all the donors. It's kind of weird, but we can get into that later too. But all the football players sit with the donors and such, and we go through awards. And I told you it's a weird plantation overlays. It's deep. Coach Rick is up there giving awards, and he was like, the best defensive walk-on award goes to Reuben, but there's one thing, he's not a walk-on anymore, and just the tears.
Oh wow.
The tears. I just had a flashback to all the grinding from getting cut from my 7th grade team up until that point, and all the coaches in high school who were like, you're never going to play at Georgia. You never get a scholarship. That's crazy. I can't turn down a full ride. After a year, so that was one of my favorite moments.
Was the whole place going crazy?
Yeah, my teammates celebrated me. That was love too. Like they were proud, they were happy, they felt that energy. Because they knew I was grinding. They knew I was grinding hard as hell.
So I want to ask you about 2 people. All right. So first and foremost, who was your favorite teammate?
Ooh, damn. Okay, my favorite teammate while I was at Georgia. Well, of course. That I was close with, or to watch like athletically.
You can do both.
All right, because I know one's more well thought of. To watch athletically, I would have to say AJ Green, because when I tell you, I can't say I've ever seen him drop a pass in practice. It's crazy. And then when we would go out, his discipline, like he was not into like the drugs and drinking. Like he was it was like he had a vision and he manifested it. It was beautiful. Right. And I think a lot of folks are talented when they get to that level, but there's so many distractions before you know it. Football is not even primary for you. Even for the people who want to go to the league. But to see AJ Green's discipline when we would go out, and to see his discipline and how he practiced on the field, and to see what he would do in the game, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's meant for this.
Yeah.
We made me start rethinking myself.
We had a young student athlete on earlier this year, Jaden Woodby, who is the same way. He's like, partying, nope. Social life, nope. He's like, it's football. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit. Like he lives that life, and it's like athletes like that, man. They're just different. They're different.
Yeah.
Humans like that, though.
Yeah,
humans. I mean,
that's true. It's not just athletes, for sure.
It's discipline. The common thread is discipline, brother. You know.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favorites. And this is hard because I had so many. I mean, because I felt like I went through different phases. You know, as I evolved, I got closer to different people, and then I had to create space with different people. But if I had to choose a favorite teammate, oh man.
I mean, did you have anybody that you confided in more than that you just cool
well,
with?
Let's do it like this. I think any roommate that I had at the time was my favorite teammate. Okay. So my freshman year, you know, we had people come in and out. You know, we had Washawn Ely. We had Avery Jones. That was my boy. It still is my boy. He's playing for Jacksonville now. Who else do we have? We had Kwame. I forgot. Kwame Gathers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we had Derek Lott. So that was my freshman year. And we learned so much together. They welcomed. I mean, you know, I was a walk-on, so really they didn't really have to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Because of that difference, and that wasn't even a thing. And I think that was love early. You know, they could have really alienated me, isolated me. They didn't do that, so I love them for that. Still love them. We're in a group chat together, and I think after that, I started rooming with one of the linemen. His name is Chris Burnett, and it was so funny. I love the dude. Actually, in the 5-minute quickies series on YouTube that I do, he drew that picture of me in the background.
The wall. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. More talented. He was he used to do the prayers before the game, so he was really devoted to his faith. And it was wild because sometimes I don't know if I came up with this, but we used to describe the room as heaven and hell. Like his side would be heaven and mine would be hell because we'd be turning up over there. So we definitely had some conflict at times, but it's all love, man. I love him. And then last would be I roomed with Corey Campbell. He was another guy. He was another walk-on, but he got respect too. And there was a year he actually was playing more than me, and I was on scholarship. So, and he was actually from Augusta too. So
yeah. We're
still cool, and those are some of my highlights. But I think there would be too many to name. I think.
No, you did good. You did good.
So
I appreciate that.
The last person I want to ask you about is what was Mark Richt like as a coach and as a person?
Ooh, let's start with as a person. That's easier. As a person, I think it was a blessing to have Coach Mark Richt as a coach. As y'all can imagine in our lives, it's hard it can be difficult to find people who have values and align their actions to those values. And that's what Coach Richt did. He was a Christian. And so I think he brought that to his coaching style, which for me fit at that time. Looking back, I wonder how folks who weren't Christian might have received that. But I think his intent was pure. Where he was really interested in supporting us in our development as men. You know, and I think that was always a priority, whether we would win or lose. It was about our development as men. And y'all, that's not common in college coaches. Like, all they really have to do is be bottom line focused and do enough so the athletes can care about you. But he did it the way he speaks to us, the things that he would focus on when we got in trouble and such. So he was really a man of his word. I saw him as a man of God and faith, and that was powerful see. And I think that is related and also unrelated to ability as a coach. I think there would be times where it's like, why are we doing this like this? This isn't working anymore, coach. Or that speech didn't really motivate me. I would have preferred to just not get that. So there was some of that. But ultimately, he was a coach that signed off on me getting a scholarship. So, I love him for that. And I think, obviously, there's a high pressure for winning to look a certain way, but he was a very successful coach at UGA. And I think the way that they talk about him sometimes is not fair. I think everybody can't be a champion. I think sometimes we did sell ourselves short, and I understand that, but I think we got to balance the conversation. Like 12, 13 wins is still beautiful for a program.
Oh yeah.
I think the criticism comes though, because I think, you see Saban and Bama and LSU, and these teams are always look prepared. And so many times Rick teams would come out in big games and be flat. And it's like, why aren't your teams as prepared or focused as Saban teams always are? And that's
like you said, though, sometimes that speech just didn't inspire.
I mean, trust me, I understand that. But I think,
go ahead.
I just, like I said, I just think that was always the criticism from fans and football fans. Is just, your teams come out flat, Saban's teams don't. So can you get over that hump?
There was something I was going to say about that. Teams come. Oh, there was something I was going to say. Well, this isn't what I was going to say, but this is what's present now. There is some of that is Coach Rick's fault. Some of that is on the players too. Like, ultimately the 11 guys on the field are competing with the 11 guys on the other side of the ball. And like, Coach Rick has nothing to do with that. He has something to do with that. You want to put ballers in positions to make plays, but individual players got to make big plays in big time games. And it wasn't happening. And so I do understand it. There was something else with that about motivating the players.
About the speeches that he would give, or
he gave solid speeches. Some of his speeches would be funny. He'd be like, "Receivers, y'all need to catch. Linemen, y'all need to block." It's like that. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
For sure, Coach. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Hey, it's true.
Huh?
I said it was true, right?
Yeah.
You're right, Coach. That's obvious.
So as we move towards the end of your football career, I won't say I know, but I've heard that injuries may have played a role in that transition for you. As reading your face, I'm seeing that may or may not be true. First, let me ask, is it?
Wait, before we get to that, can I ask this one question?
No, you may not. You are in the back of the line.
Some psychologists observing my face and such.
This is before we get to that point. I just want to. So during your time in college, like the height of it, like, did you have aspirations of making it to the NFL? And like, if so, or if not, maybe not. What kind of like work were you putting in, I guess, to like you said, so like we were talking about, extraordinary athletes put in that extra work or whatever. So were you like doing that, seeing yourself doing that, or how was that in your mind?
So I think it's hard to be in that environment and not at least consider a journey towards and or in the league, because it's just, you're right there. If you go to Georgia and you're playing and you make plays, you're going to get looked at. It's not like if you go to a smaller school and you don't know if you're going to get looks or not. Like, you're going to get looks. And so it felt so close. But I think what was happening was, my junior year, I don't know how much detail. So basically, I was playing, I got a scholarship my sophomore year. Justin Houston was there. And Justin Houston was a stud. Like I wasn't about to be playing over Justin. You know, if anything, I would come in like to give him a break, like that kind of vibe, and then bring my eyes out when Justin Houston's back ready. And so that was kind of my support role. And then he graduated. So really, this was in my head, it was my position now, you know? But this is where the politics comes in, because even though I was a scholarship athlete, I think in some ways I was still seen as a second class player, which is ironic. And I was balling still. It wasn't like I was underperforming. I was performing enough to get a scholarship. So what happened is they brought a player from USC called Jarvis Jones, who was medically disqualified for playing, from playing at USC, and our medical staff cleared him. And so when I heard this, I think it was like the summer or spring before, it kind of broke my heart. It was like, damn, the program didn't trust me to hold this down. Like they're still recruiting, but so take the emotions out of it. That's the name of the game. Like they're trying to bring the best talent in, you know, it doesn't matter who's there. You know, they're always wanting to cycle in fresh talent. And so that next year, you know, me and Jarvis competed in, you know, our film. Well, let me be careful here. Looking at film, there were a lot of similarities in terms of us making plays, and Jarvis Jones was special too. Like it was like the ball would find him, and he would just always be in the right place at the right time to make plays. And like it was just like God-given, you know. It was like there's something about this guy that I can't compete with, you know, because it's just from above. And that next year, I would start playing, and we were kind of splitting reps. But then eventually, I think UF happened, and he got 4 sacks in a game, and I think I watched my career end.
Right.
In terms of playing time, like he that was he had that spot a lot, and so I started playing less, and this is where the politics gets real messy, because the coach, like my grade, because you grade out, like they analyze everything statistically, and I was still grading out in like 80, so it wasn't like I was failing like as a player in my performance,
right? But
I was playing less, and then I would meet with my coach, and he's like, "No, just keep doing what you're doing, you're good." But I'm playing less, and so I think given the playing time that I was getting and the film that I didn't have, I started to realize like that's not realistic, Ruben. Like you can go to pro day like some of your teammates will do, but like, do you even really want to do that? And that's when I really started to say, Ruben, like, you remember you got academics, bro. You don't gotta do it that way. And that's when I really started to. I know my senior year, coach put me on scout team, and it was disrespectful. Like I didn't like that. And so that was when it hit me. It was like, Ruben, you got to get the hell out of here. Either go to another program, which I thought about doing. My friend was at Citadel. Brandon comes up again. He, I could have went to Citadel to play my 5th year, or Indiana with my coach who was fired. But I think my stomach was starting to turn. When I went to practice, it was like a dark cloud. It was like I was not enjoying this. And so I decided to take my talent out of football towards graduate school.
So I think that's a perfect transition then. So as you move past football, and football Ruben's now in the rearview mirror, you move on to you receive your bachelor's from the University of Georgia, and then you make a move within the SEC as well, but not quite to play as a college athlete. You've dedicated your talents elsewhere now. You moved to University of Missouri. That's where we were speaking pre-show. You said you pursued your master's and your PhD in one program, and you can explain that to us here shortly. But environmentally speaking, how would you juxtapose UGA against Missouri? Because everyone, I think all of us here have visited Athens. We know how big of a party town it is, how it is a football town. Like that's what that city thrives on. And you arrive at, if I'm not mistaken, Junction.
Columbia, Missouri.
Columbia. That's Junction is Texas. What was that like?
Football wise, or just like socially, or both?
Socially,
mainly, because
anything.
Yeah, I mean, how did Reuben perceive this environment?
Well, part of it I gotta just start off with myself. I think I was a bit naive. I felt like Georgia was the hotbed of racism, and I felt like leaving the state, I was just going to leave it in Georgia, and it was just going to be a racism-free state, an experience. And when I got there, it was wow. It was just like I had never seen droves of white folks like that. It was like, golly, like, sheesh. And the looks that I was getting from folks, it was a couple like I was invisible. It's like no way you looking through me. I'm 6'4". I was 230 at that time. You ain't looking through me. Or they'd be like confused about why I'm there, like I didn't belong or something. And the other one was just shocked. It was like, this is like I'm the first Black person they had seen. And then when I started taking my classes and interacting with my white peers, I learned, given the demographics of Missouri, in many instances, I was the first Black person that many white folks were seeing in their life. And it was like, they were shocked, I was shocked, we were all shocked. So yeah, it was an experience. It just felt different. I think because of Georgia, especially, Atlanta, Athens, the diversity, those are just diverse meccas, especially Atlanta. Atlanta's unique. Like, there's no other place like Atlanta. But even Athens, like, there is white folks, there are people of color, but the mix just makes it seem like it's a more diverse place.
Right.
Missouri is just a lot more white folks, fewer people of color, fewer Black folks.
That's kind of shocking to me, because I mean, Missouri is a large university as far as athletics goes, and for you to say you're interacting with some people that like, oh, that's what a Black person looks like, that's crazy to me. Like, and you think you've got St. Louis in the same state.
Yeah,
but man,
Kansas City,
right?
But the history, I mean,
oh yeah, Kansas,
Missouri was the last state to let slaves go. That history's still there. St. Louis has some of the roughest schools, some of the most segregated communities. So that's what I spent my first few years learning, like the history of the place and why things seem so stale and backwards. And it just felt like Missouri was behind on the times, where UGA was pushing the envelope socially. Well, and that's another thing. I just got to acknowledge the privilege and the bias that I carry as a student athlete. Like, I didn't have the traditional black student experience at UGA. I was a student athlete. So the racism that Black students who weren't athletes had to deal with, I didn't have to deal with in the same way from my professors or from other students, because they saw me as a guy. I played football in Georgia. Come on in. Granted, there were some racism we experienced where if they didn't think you were an athlete, you didn't get in. It's like, well, damn, like, I gotta flash my Georgia football card to
I experienced that racism in Athens as well.
So you know what's up, right? But yeah, Missouri, it just felt like the program wasn't as good, so I wasn't used to that, and the community wasn't like, it's die hard. Like, this is actually the best metaphor to describe it, but on game day and for football, you can go to campus and park, you can go to the store, you can do stuff. In Georgia, you might as well just stay at the crib, like,
right.
Unless you want to be in traffic all day. But that's the commitment that the community and the people have with the sports, and it's just different. And so I think I was recognizing that difference at Mizzou. It's just not as deeply ingrained.
So I'll ask, so soon after you got, well, it wasn't that soon, because you said 2013 you got up there. So, but I mean, a little bit after you got in there, the Michael Brown incident happened in August 9th, 2014. So how were you feeling, and what was kind of the overall climate or the atmosphere of Missouri at that time?
Ooh, I remember. So a lot of, maybe you all, and maybe even some of your listeners remember how big George Floyd was for a lot of people, and how it really shook people's
conscious.
perspective on like the norm, or like, there's a disillusionment for a lot of people. Like people's reality had to get shaken up. And so my George Floyd moment happened August 9, 2014, because it was like I finally didn't have the distraction of football. Granted, Trayvon Martin happened when I was a football player, and I felt it, but there was some kind of like space where I didn't connect that Trayvon Martin could be my black ass.
Right. It also wasn't police.
Facts.
Yeah.
Fact. That's another detail. But I remember that happening and me just going into this deep depression. It's like I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to sleep. Just hurt. It was like, dang, like this dude was on his way to college. That really could have been me at any point in my life. And to just come to terms with how society views the humanity of Black folks. It's like, damn, like the officer called him a demon. Golly, like, fuck, he's a human. And so I think that was the catalyst for a lot of things, because I started to investigate, like, why aren't people in my environment why aren't people in my immediate environment, my classmates, faculty members, administrators, why aren't they as upset about this as I am? Granted, I don't know if they were or weren't, but what I was observing, they weren't passionate about it like I was. So I think that was a catalyst for me to start looking for people who were as passionate, just as passionate, if not more than I was, to support me, because I wasn't getting it from my classmates. And granted, I'm in a top 5 counseling psych program that specializes in diversity and social justice. So in my head, I'm thinking we're about to take a bus to Ferguson, which is 2 hours away, to protest, but everybody's just kind of silent. And that silence ate me up inside. It's like, how can you be silent on this? Like, how can you say you care about me and you not even talk about this thing in our class, or talk about this in a way that's connecting and meaningful?
That's, yeah, I mean, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
Like, we've had that discussion a couple of times on here, and like, white guilt wasn't a thing for me for a long time, but like lately it's been like, damn, man, you just want to like I'm sorry.
You should always feel white guilt, Ryan.
No, you shouldn't. You should not always feel white guilt.
Colonizer.
Should be a thing of the past. Hey. Remember, I'm in control of the chat here.
Oh, man.
Go ahead.
Nah, but I mean, that's like, I felt it. I know exactly how you felt. And I mean, it truly hit me with the George Floyd thing, because we recorded a little bit after that, and it was just like I was so drained and just tired, and it was just like it's hard to describe how, like, it's almost like an out of body experience. You're present, but you're not really present, and it was just this frustration. Like, how do you not see it? Like,
yeah. So
yeah, it's yeah.
Yo, Ryan, though, why'd you delete that one question though? It was relevant to ask, like,
what that was me. I deleted it because he already
blame
pretty
the
much
white
touched
guy
on it.
Michael, why'd you delete that question?
Well, because I mean, he pretty much touched on
no,
question.
But the back end of the question was getting into more like the things that he did, or the reaction to the action. You got to get to the reaction.
I just want to ask it.
Huh? Oh wait.
Just want to ask it or talk about it.
Yeah, and I don't even know what they're talking about.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and just ask that part. So just like, with what happened, you basically said that you started to search for people who were more like-minded. So can you sort of like share some of the things that you did in terms of activity and activism after that incident on the campus of Mizzou, to start building towards that change, like just some of the things that you went through during that time?
Yeah, so the like-minded people weren't in my program. They weren't in my immediate environment. I had to find them on campus, and I went to my first demonstration. It was a die-in that was held by 3 queer Black women who had an organization called MU for Mike Brown. And that's why I always show love to Black women, because they're always active in change and at the forefront of it. And y'all, I mean, I just talked to y'all about football. Y'all are sports folks. I played in some large stadiums, LSU Shakes. And then I played in front of millions on TV, and I've never felt something as powerful as watching those women speak truth to power with courage, just fearlessness. I've never seen something like that. And it was so healing for me because it's like, oh, people are there are other people who give a damn. Yes. And so that would be the catalyst for me beginning to organize with that group, because eventually some of the leaders would graduate and me and a couple other students would begin to like head it. And then eventually it would show me that I don't have to wait on the university or anybody else. I can start my own group. So that's what I did. You know, there was a group called the Student Coalition for Critical Action, and it was actually not affiliated with the university. So we didn't have to have that big brother vibe where they policed everything we did.
Right.
And we would have conversations about what's going on in the world, what's happening on campus. And the reality is, at most college campuses and in most institutions, racism is present. And so you have this exclusion of people of color, Black students, and the centering of the experiences of white students, faculties, white students, faculty, staff, administrators. And this, I'll never forget one conversation this Black kid came in and he talked about wanting to kill himself because of his experiences of exclusion and racism on the campus. And so, you know, at that time we had been protesting. Like, so 2014 went to the first die-in. That 2015, I was activated. We were protesting on campus. Really, we were meeting with all the administrators. We're going to all these listening meetings, and it just wasn't working. And so that space was really an incubator for us to not only talk about the issues, but come up with actions to address the issues. And again, this was another turning point for me. So it's like the institution keeps saying that they're doing things. Just wait, we're going to do it. And, you know, I think some of this is the delay tactic. Some of it is just the university bureaucracy. And when I say delay tactic, when you know somebody's going to graduate in 6 months, you can just wait things out, especially if it's like the leader of an organization.
Yep.
But I was a graduate student and I started to see the jig with that. I'm like, that's not going to work. I don't have a plan. So basically after that, I really started to take an active role and change. And it was like, this is suffocating. Like being in the middle of administration who's saying, wait, be patient. And then these students who are literally saying we're suffering every day. I was angry. I got very angry. Whether you call it righteous anger, compassionate anger, I was pissed. It's like, I don't like seeing people who look like me suffer like this. And I'm suffering too. Because like this is all extracurricular. I'm a doc student at this point. You know, so I'm seeing clients, I'm doing my research. I'm also working as a graduate student assistant. I'm taking my classes and I'm doing this on the side. So it's like, on one hand, I'm honored to do the work and I have the skill to create these spaces. On another hand, I'm annoyed that administration's getting paid thousands to do this work and their salary and they're not doing their job. Mm-hmm. So me and 3 other students, we wrote the chancellor, who's like the president of the university, and top 3 senior administrators. And we told them, like, look, if y'all don't, this is what's going on campus. If y'all don't tend to this, we're going to highlight the inequity on campus in so many words. And it was crazy. They basically told us to join the Black student organizations and for our voices to be heard. And that was like a slap. And, you know, even if we did listen to that, between the 4 of us, we were all affiliated with all of them. So it wasn't like they were doing something with it. And so we upped the ante. And so there was a lot more protesting on campus. And this wasn't even just Black students. Like a lot of the other students were starting to see the institutional dysfunction that was happening. But Black students, Black folks in general, we just typically tend to be more vocal. And outward with our issues, or at least our desire for change. And fast forward, we planned a demonstration. It was secretive as hell because even we knew. So homecoming Mizzou touts itself as the first university to have a homecoming over 150 years ago, and it's cult-like. Everybody comes back. It's actually one of the bigger events on at Mizzou. You know, even bigger than the football in some ways. Um, and we said, okay, we're not getting the attention we want from the people who work for us and the local media. So let's interrupt the homecoming demonstration or procession. And so for 3 weeks, we planned this. I mean, we were planning on the top of parking decks. Me and 10 other students, and really just trying to assure our safety because it's a big event. You know, it's a big event. There's a lot going on. I mean, we had it planned to the T where media had an eye on us just in case things got tense. So everything would be recorded. Like, we were very intentional. And of course, the day of, nothing happens how we plan it. And like, we're running across campus to catch the president. But that demonstration is on YouTube, and I encourage you and the listeners to watch it. It's very jarring to see how the community and also the president who was in the car that we had stopped, how they respond. It's just, again, indifference. You see, it wasn't even like we were cussing people out. We were just talking about the history of racism at Mizzou. And you would think that we're a menace to society. I mean, you know, community members, they started drowning us out with the same chants that they use at the football game. And then you have community members, not even students, start to form this line in between the president's car and us and start calling us names, putting their bodies on us, getting real tense, you know, calling the women black bitches. And I mean, it was just unnecessary disdain and hatred. And so yeah, that was a dark moment. And I think the beauty of it was I witnessed courage in a way that I don't know if people ever get to witness, because myself and those 10 other students, like, we were really just trying to make the campus better for everybody, you know, because if Black students feel included, then everybody's included, then we have a healthier community. But anything less is just that, less than community. And to see how people responded to that with hate, it was very hurtful, but also very empowering. And I don't know, I guess I kind of want to pause to kind of check in to see how y'all doing, because it's kind of
this is eye-opening. I mean,
that got me. Yeah,
I hate Mizzou now, but
it struck a chord. Definitely when you were, the words you said struck a chord.
I mean, I never liked Mizzou, so I mean, it doesn't surprise me because I figured Missouri and Arkansas are very similar in that respect, that there's a lot of racism. Now, I mean, of course, you know, people know about Alabama and Mississippi and even Georgia as being very racially charged and full states, but you know, Missouri and Arkansas are both in that same. It's just not as loud, and they're not as big, so
no one really like cares about those places, so it's just magnifying glass on it. But because no one cares, I think it has times to fester, and you know, like, because no one's checking up on it, so their isolation almost becomes the rule. Whereas here it's almost like you can't really be in Atlanta and not socialize. You can put on a fake face and go out, but at the end of the day, you need to be around these people to get your life done. In Missouri, you don't have to.
Well, I mean, but I also know, like, Alabama and Mississippi, there were huge events in the past where, like, caught camera, where people legitimately being beaten and stuff. So of course, you knew that those states were very racist. But you know, like I said, Arkansas,
well, I mean,
and
the whole
Missouri,
country's racist. But at the end of the day, when you see it manifest, that's the
But I mean, like, you think of like Bull Connor and whatnot. Those that there, it's laced with history in those states.
Georgia especially.
It's just Missouri and Arkansas are always, like you said, these people don't care about it.
You can't glaze over Arkansas. That's where the KKK lives. Harrison, Arkansas,
right? Yeah, Little Rock.
but nobody talks about them. It's just nobody talks about those two states hardly at all, outside of maybe Kansas City and St. Louis, where you know they're huge metropolitan areas. Nobody actually talks about those.
Is Arkansas considered Midwest, or is that considered South?
I think that's the South.
I
They got
have
that
no
Kansas
idea.
name. We should just throw them over there with the Midwest.
You could take them.
And anyway, so talking about your time, sort of going past your time at Mizzou, or summing it up, compared to, I guess, the height of the temperature, by the time you left, had it cooled down at all? Did you see any kind of difference in the feeling around, or was it just as thick, in the harsh moments as towards the end?
Yeah, I'm surprised y'all went over the athletes who boycotted. That was before Colin Kaepernick. Um,
Oh, no,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, no, for sure. No, we
but
do
but
have to
but I
recognize
think
that.
but to fast forward the story, basically after that homecoming demonstration, the campus, it was like business as usual. It was like nothing happened, and that was suffocating again. To be more emotionally tuned, I felt frustrated, annoyed, so much so that I had to get the hell out of the state. Like I had to go back to Georgia, kick it for a little bit because it was just too tense and static at the same time on campus. Um, and then on my way back, I get a call from Jonathan Butler. He's another one of the graduate students who was in the group that we were calling Concerned Student 1950, which was 11 of us. We weren't the only students engaging in activism on campus, but we were probably some of the most visible
The
just by
prominent.
virtue of the way we were doing it. Um, he was like, yeah. I was like, what's up? I like to keep the light. I was like, what's up, man? And he was like, can you talk? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I'm gonna go on a hunger strike. And I was like, man, quit playing. He's like, all right. He's like, no, I'm gonna go on a hunger strike until Tim Wolf, who was the president, resigns. And I was like, you serious? And he got quiet. I was like, what happens if he doesn't resign? And then got quiet again. And I got scared. I was like, man, damn, like, I don't want you to die over no stupid shit like this. And that moment of fear I had it, but then I had again that courage, that fuck it. I said, fuck it, like, all right, that's the conditions. It's time to get Tim Wolf out of office. And so that would start a hunger strike on campus. And it was a big deal. Like he was well known on campus and people were concerned about it. Like, everybody, I mean, white students, black students, everybody was concerned. But the only thing is, and this is something like you'll see in other forms of activism, people want to change the activist and not change the system that the activist is protesting. So people were telling John that you got to end the hunger strike. But it was like, there's a reason he started the hunger strike. Address that. Racism on campus.
I believe I found a picture of one of the events, and I believe you're in this picture,
Oh,
Reuben.
snap.
He's in a lot of pictures. He
Um,
was, he was out
I can
here.
show it. I can't show it to us in the Zoom,
Okay.
but you're in a black shirt with a fist on it, and you're
Oh, yeah,
standing with
that-
khakis. So that is you. Let me go ahead and show this to the people here.
Yeah, I was in all black.
Yep. Well, you're in khakis
Yeah,
and a black shirt and glasses. So
When you say khakis, are you talking about like the brown khakis or black khakis?
khaki colored pants and
Ooh, I
brown
don't
shoes.
know.
This looks like you, but I could be wrong. But
No, it probably is me. I'm just trying to think of where in the timeline it's at. Because if it's khaki, like brown colored pants, it's probably towards the end of the protest.
This-
Probably me.
So go on with what happened with how did the hunger strike culminate?
So basically, we're 4 or 5 days into the hunger strike. Jonathan meets with the board of curators, who are the bosses, predominantly white group who have a lot of power over in the university system. They're the boss of the president. And they basically said, if you die, there is, it's going to be your fault. Like, we have no intention of removing this person from his position. And again, that was another turning point because it's like, wow, these people are really entrenched. They have no interest in what we thought was right, which was if this person's not doing his job to create a healthy campus climate, he got to be out of there because he's getting paid $500,000 and our tuition dollars are not going towards an experience where we feel included. That was our rationale.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we started doing all kinds of brainstorming, some things that will never leave my head and heart. And perfect timing, the athletes, they reached out. I mean, because, we had undergraduates in that group. So there were connections. And long story short, they wanted to meet with us. And And somebody called me. I was on my way to like a banquet to get some kind of award, and I'm like, all right, I got to be late for that. So I went to this meeting, and I'm so glad I did because of my background in athletics, and then my experience as a Black student who wasn't playing athletics, because there were a lot of stereotypes that each group had about each other.
Yeah.
You know, athletes are privileged; they just got it made, which in some ways there's some truth in it, and people don't understand. Like, it is alienating and isolating to kind of be a slave. Like, your whole schedule is sent to you. You really can't engage in social activities with folks who look like you because, for a variety of reasons, whether it's coaches who shame you for doing that, or just the time commitment that it takes to leave practice and go do something with folks who aren't involved in athletics. So right. It can be an isolating experience for a Black person, whether you know it or not. And so in that meeting, it was a lot of just clarifying, like, what's going on? Why are y'all doing it? How can we help? And ultimately, the athletes decided they wanted to join the protest on their own in the form of a boycott. And when I tell y'all, I've never seen a decision be made and make it to mainstream media so fast, but ESPN caught that. And this would bring the national media to Columbia, Missouri in a way I've never seen. It was crazy. Everything just started moving so much faster. And it was really stressful. I remember it being a very stressful time because, granted, I had experiences with the media as an athlete, but a lot of the folks, they never had been in front of a camera. So it's like, ooh, like,
so was the media coming to you, or who were they going to speak about, get their intel on what was sort of going down?
If you look Black, they just felt like you knew what was going on, which was the issue. Because, they just felt like if you were Black, you knew what was going on, you were conscious. And it was deep because really what we were trying to do was like a decentralized movement where anybody could really call themselves a concerned student. And especially if you were Black, but the only issue is the 11 of us kind of were the brainchild of where we wanted to go and what was going on. And there were many Black students who were not involved and who did not want to be involved. And so when you get like a Fox News media on campus, they're making these Black students, they're creating the conditions to make Black students make a fool out of themselves.
Yeah.
Because their rhetoric's not on point. They've never been in front of a camera. They're asking them really charged questions. Mm-hmm. And so things just got really difficult. You have people who, it started off as we, then it started becoming I, because of the fame and notoriety that came with media. You had a lot of those high profile social activists. I will not name them here, but they're high profile, just happened to show up. And it's like, who invited you? Like, why are you here? Like, do you even know what we're doing? Like, agents. So it was just wild what was happening on campus. And ultimately, fast forward, within 2 days of the athletes boycotting, saying they wouldn't play, the president resigned and the chancellor resigned. I mean, and so what I took from that is that the university, and it's not even just universities, most institutions, they value revenue in their public persona more than they do human life.
I mean, you see that every day. Every day. I mean, like, just as recently here in Georgia, when the SB, I forget the bill name, but when that bill was signed, there was public outcry and people were up in arms about it. And then, like, the major corporations, we'll give Arthur Blank his due because he immediately moved to it and said, look, this is not okay. This can't be a thing. But, Delta kind of sat back, Coke sat back, and all those type of things, these major companies. And then they felt the pressure from the public eye, and then they made a statement. So it's like that everywhere, man. It's just sad.
The capitalistic monster.
Oh yeah, but you hurt the money, and then changes will be made.
Hey, can I just say this since we got the platform? Y'all remember this thing got us spread, but y'all remember when the basketball players stopped playing?
Yeah.
Y'all remember how serious it got?
Oh
He
yeah.
changed the world.
Obama got involved. Like,
That's what I'm saying. Like everything is a plantation mentality, especially professional sports. So once professional athletes it snaps that they have more power and control than they're led to believe,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things in this world can change really fast.
Mhm.
Right. But a lot of them would have to sacrifice, and they're not willing to do that. They put on a good
Well,
face, but they're not willing to really,
well,
truly sacrifice. Like
well,
LeBron wanted his bubble championship. Let's be real. Let's be
well,
real.
but the difference,
of course,
really, really, I mean, some of them could, like the top dogs, definitely they could sacrifice and it not hurt them at all. Could they still be fine? It's the ones at the bottom, the ones who are struggling to like make ends meet and taking care of their family on
Ooh.
league minimum. Those are the guys who
Ooh.
typically. No, I'm just saying, like it's the same reason why the NFL can't come together is because
I'd more say that for the NFL than the NBA because
I mean the NBA, there were players who were like rookies and on like rookie deals that just said, I wish we go back to playing. I understand. I wish we could go back to playing though, because I have bills to pay.
The only reason I'm shaking my head this heavy is because I saw the same thing in Mizzou. Like
Mhm.
there were people who wanted to be involved who couldn't, because their grades weren't right, or their mental health. There's a variety of reasons people couldn't and didn't get involved. Some people just were afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people who, it's like, come on, like you said you wanted to be involved, and when the time comes, it's like
I can't mess up my scholarship, or I don't want to get kicked out, and yeah.
People talk a big game until it's time to lean into courage, because it was frustrating to see the same people that you're advocating for get upset with you. Like, why are you making so much noise? Or like, why are you doing it like that? Like, some of the most hurtful experiences came from people who I was advocating for, people who look like me, Black folks. And that, I mean, I'll never forget that. But what it let me know is the complexity of what it takes to rid yourself of that victim mentality, to say I'm not inferior and I deserve these things and I'm going to do what it takes and sacrifice. I'm glad you said that word, sacrifice whatever it takes. And granted, there's some sacrifices I wasn't willing to make. My PhD, that I protected that thing. So I had to make sure I was going to classes, make sure I was on my thing. But people aren't willing to sacrifice anything, even comfort at times. And that hurts, because we're going to have to give up some of this privilege, some of this comfort to really see things shift and change. But it is complex. And I don't think it's that black and white all the time. But just think, if those top players decided, all right, we'll share some of our bread with these players who might not be able to. There's part of my work from here on out is just inviting people to dream and be creative, because there's a lot of creative ways to create change where we can all win.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the first thoughts I had just when we were having that short conversation. It popped in my mind when you were saying that, Michael, like, well, LeBron and KD and all these could have put a little pot together and taken care of anybody who couldn't. You know what I mean? They're richer than freaking corporations. But
they don't teach this. They don't teach people how to, whether it's Black folks, whether it's women, people who are differently able. They don't teach us how to. They don't teach us freedom.
Yeah.
But to Kyrie's credit, he did do that for the WNBA. He subsidized anybody who decided not to play in the WNBA.
I like Kyrie. I feel like Kyrie was one of the radical players, because you could tell it's a spectrum from like respectability to the institution. Oh no, we got to play the game. We got to do this in the way that is respectable, so we don't get in trouble, so we don't ruffle too many feathers. Again, I don't want to shame and blame that. It's just not. I don't like. I'm very sensitive about that approach, because there could be some internalized stuff in it. And then to this radical, no, I'm here to shake this thing up from the bottom to the top. And I think Kyrie was that way.
We make fun of Kyrie sometimes, but the thing I respect about Kyrie is the fact that he's a thinker. So he's not afraid of being wrong sometimes. But he'll keep asking questions and he'll keep questioning things, as opposed to some people who just won't even go that far. So we respect that about him.
He does think the wrong thought about Earth, though.
The Earth is not flat. We know.
Yeah, the Earth is not flat.
Have y'all ever seen the Earth
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
from
so
space?
Yeah, from the live feed.
I mean, I've seen other planets. I've seen Mars.
From
I've
whose
seen
live
Venus.
feed? Like,
I've
whose live
seen Jupiter.
Hmm.
I've seen the perspective of Earth from other planets.
I'm not going to argue with a PhD. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to fall for that
this
trap.
has nothing to do with PhD. Honestly,
It just means question everything.
But question, that's the thing. Question that, because even the moon, it's like, dang, I saw footage, but besides the footage, I really don't know.
But the moon is clearly round, and you see every side of it if you look
Curvature,
at it every
yeah.
night.
You see every side of the moon?
No, you never
Yes.
see the dark side of the moon. What are you talking about?
You do see it. You
No, you
just
don't.
can't see it with light.
You
Ever look at the
we
moon?
rotate at
when
the
there's a
same
crescent?
speed as the
No.
moon.
Just listen to me. Listen to me. Look at the moon whenever there's a crescent. You can see the black part. It's not like it's not there. It's just you don't see it hit with light. Like you still see it.
It's
Just
round.
because something
It's at least
it's
round. You know it's
figuring out
round.
the sky behind it, obviously.
Where I'm going with this, because I think we could get into this for a whole nother talk.
Yeah, this
show,
could get dangerous.
is like questioning everything. I mean, even me questioning who I am as a Black person. Like, I'm not inferior because this person thinks they're better than me,
No.
or I'm not just a athlete or entertainer because these are the only models that I see on TV and in the mainstream. And so that's why just questioning everything seems so natural to me, because the moment you have a belief, it prevents you from asking questions.
Yeah,
True,
questioning
but I think
always it leads to advancement. I mean, that's just.
But
it's what
sometimes
human
questioning
nature
can
is.
be reductive. And I think like going and breaking down whether the earth is flat or round is almost reductive to a point where it's like certain things that I guess we accept as standard thought, obviously they can be questioned, but when there's other more pressing things, sometimes those ones can sort of be left alone. And we don't have to dwell too much. So bringing it back in. So when we're about to move on to your Florida saga, but bringing it back around. So once you saw that the students, the athletes protesting got rid of sort of like the hierarchy at that moment, what kind of changes did you see flood in after that happened, or were there any changes at all?
Well, immediately I remember it just being Jubilee. Like, it was like, again, me being naive, I'm like, damn, we beat racism. Like, it's over now. Like,
I feel like Ali.
It no longer exists.
I mean, y'all, this spread globally. Like, there were 85 plus universities who started submitting demands to their universities just in the United States. There were protests in South Africa, and they were standing in solidarity with us. Folks in China were hitting us up. Like, this thing got big really, really quick. And so I think to have this success in this way, I know I got a form of validation that I'll never forget. It's like the power of what a small group of committed people could do. Like, we shook shit up and we accomplished that. The only thing is, I mean, we can get into what things we learned along the way that didn't work. But I think to answer your question, I know there was a sense of pride in the Black community. Like, Black folk always swag surfing. So there was like a little turn up on the quad. Like, everybody, like, I've never seen that many Black folks in one place, all doing the same thing, all smiling. So just that in and of itself was powerful. I would start to see Black students walk with their head up on campus, like they belong there, like there was pride. The discourse, so before Michael Brown and such, talking about racism, you like had to whisper to talk about it. Like, is it? Yeah. You could not deny racism was present, and because of what we had done, like we had highlighted blatant institutional and individual racism. So the discourse was different. Like, we didn't have to justify if racism was a thing. We just talk about it. That was powerful. I got transitioned out of my job doing diversity and social justice work, and what I landed in was teaching. And I didn't know, I mean, looking back, it was developing into it. but I didn't know I had a passion for teaching. And so everything that I learned in the activist circles, I infused into this course that I was now teaching, where we would it's kind of like therapy. We would sit in a circle, mm-hmm. and instead of me lecturing to folks, our lives and our experiences were the content of the course. So people would come in not talking to each other. And, because we would sit in a circle, people are super tense on their phone. And by the last day of class, because of the experience of connecting with people and better understanding their experiences, whether it's privilege or oppression, people feel connected to each other. They feel human again. And they're literally in tears crying because they have to end this class and this experience. And so those were the positives. Some of the ugly things were there was a white student who threatened to kill all the black students on campus right after that. Mm-hmm. And so whereas you have this intense high, you have this intense low. Like, it's like, and of course the university, it's not like they said, black students don't come to campus. We got this. We know there's a threat. Somebody's threatening to kill all y'all. They left it up to the professors. They didn't say anything. So some professors were making or requiring their students to come to class, or they might fail their test. And some professors were lenient. I know as a group, we were walking students to class, and I don't know what that would do. I mean, everybody would get shot, but it was just like, wow. We are really out here isolated as a community. Mm-hmm. And so one of my favorite activists from the 60s, Kwame Ture, also known as Stokely Carmichael, he says, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Mm. And so things definitely shifted. They hired a chief diversity officer, and people, there were faculty positions open and such for diversity hires. And the university started doing backward stuff. Like, they started to make rules and policies against protesting. So whereas we just protested wherever, whenever, you had to ask permission or you could risk getting arrested. That's still a policy now. Now, does that push the institution forward? I guess if your idea is you don't want this to be an issue. Even now, they don't talk about it as a student movement or student protest. They say the events of 2015. Anything they can do to minimize this experience. And, if I'm in my feelings, I can take it personal, because it's like, damn, like, that could have been the opportunity to build off of, but they've made it like this scarlet letter and this shameful experience. And so now the university can't grow from it. It just haunts them. And so that it's complex. I don't know. I think things got better and I think things got worse at the same time.
I think you summed it up, that there's just like a lot of work that still needs to be done in general, but the seeds were planted.
Yes. I call it an opportunity gap. We opened the opportunity gap for individuals in the institution to change. And as time goes on, it just closes. And the thing is, it repeats. Mm-hmm. The demands we submitted, the template was from demands that Black students had submitted in the 60s. So it wasn't like we reinvented the wheel. But again, I imagine there was a gap that opened and it closed. And, even now, the leader that they brought in, ironically, he was hired as in place of the person that we got fired. Mm-hmm. He came in with this authoritarian mentality where it's like, look, this is the way we're going or you're out. And that was totally opposite from what the university did.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, I feel what you said, because that with that quote, the Stokely Carmichael quote, it's almost like change becomes status quo eventually. And it's almost like it's almost changed to remain the same. But so we want to sort of, you talked about the teaching thing and how you sort of switch gears there. What took you down to Florida? And then how has your journey been down there? And what's sort of been going on in that part of your life?
Yeah, so at a certain point, I think after I realized that the university was staying the same in more ways than I would have liked, and I was trying, y'all, the way I talk about it now, I don't know if I always am communicating how traumatic that was. Like I'm still healing from things that happened during that time, the things that people said to us, the ways we were scapegoated and blamed. I mean, even some things that were happening within the group, like there's some hurtful things that happened. And so at a certain point, it hit me. It was like, Reuben, if you don't get your PhD from the University of Missouri, you've made the University of Missouri better and you have nothing to show for it. You are not going to be a part of the 1% of Black men with PhDs. So your activism is no longer solely focused on making the University of Missouri better. Your activism is getting your ass out of here. And so that's what when the teaching happened, like that gave me an outlet for that change energy. So instead of trying to change, the system at large, it was like, let me change this group of humans here and they'll spread it. And we were talking about the protests. I mean, we were having all kinds of conversations, but it was real. And I don't think people have a lot of spaces where they can get real talk. And so I learned like, this is my life's work. So that class, I began to, it became my dissertation. I standardized the curriculum, and then it was so successful, they wanted to open up more sections of it. And so other graduate students taught the class, and that became my dissertation. And part of me coming to Florida was to finish my PhD. So kind of like medical school, after you finish medical school, you do a residency. So we do a year-long internship. And so I did mine at the University of Florida in their Counseling and Wellness Center to complete my PhD. And then I took my first day job as a psychologist in a counseling center. So right now I'm in South Florida in Tampa, University of South Florida for now.
Okay.
And then that's what so that's my day job. And then I do all my consulting, speaking, loving humans.
Right.
When I'm not on the clock.
So in terms of that, like just a little bit looking at a top-down perspective, where do you sort of see this path that you're on? Where do you see yourself, or where do you want to be in 5 years from now?
Oops. Oh, that's good questions on this show. I think I'll answer it and in both. So on one hand, me doing exactly what I'm doing, because the way I live my life, like at some point at Mizzou, I realized like I don't want to be an activist, because an activist is an identity. And when you're behaving as an activist, you're an activist. But when you're not doing things as an activist, or people don't think you are, you're not an activist all of a sudden. Then you got to do things to fit in this box. And it's like, no, I don't want to play that game. Every day of my life, every moment of my life, I wanted to be shifting the norm. Even from the energy I bring in a room, that can be transformative. So everything becomes activism. So I tell people I live an active life. And so I want to keep doing that. This conversation is a part of my mission. Every day when I go to work and I am meeting with clients in therapy, that's part of the activism. Every time I push my supervisors and the people above me to be better, that's part of the activism. So I want to just keep doing that. Keep creating spaces for myself to be my best self and other people to be their best selves. Kind of like when like LeBron gets on the court, everybody just gets a little better. That's how I want to be with humans. So that's that. But another part is I don't like working for people, y'all. Not like working for people. It's something, I don't know if it's the Nigerian in me or what, or just the experiences of power over me. I don't like that.
Rulership mentality.
Woo! You're going somewhere. But so I think it's just me building my brand and continuing to do more speaking, more consulting work with organizations to where I don't need to work for anybody to do that. And hopefully I can spread this love and these ideas about individual and institutional transformation globally. I mean, obviously I want to spread it in the United States, but oppression is a human problem. And I want to be a part of that solution for all humans everywhere in the globe.
That bit you said about activists and the view of activists and activism, I hadn't thought about that, but as you said it, I was like, it's right. When someone is an activist, you view them as an activist and you don't view them as a whole person, honestly. That's a key part that I like that. But from what I've gathered from your practice and what I've seen on your videos and all of your works that you put out there, I would say, I don't want to say some people, I would say I would describe your practice and as a natural, kind of like a holistic approach to it. That's the energy I get from it. And feel free to correct me there. You have your own branding, and you're certainly.
Thank you. I received that as a blessing, man.
But how would you describe your practice to people? And I'm not just talking about your brand, but the way you interact with people.
Love, 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 love. Love, 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 love. It took me a long time to get here, and I had to go through a lot of layer peeling and self-reflection, self-discovery, a lot of ugly things. Like, I had some intense homophobia. I had a lot of sexist ideas, a lot of my own internalized racism, things that people will call shameful and hold a lot of judgment and guilt for. I met those things, and I'm meeting those things so that I can remove those as obstacles that prevent me from connecting with other humans. And so it's a story of love, like, because the more I've learned to love myself, the more I'm able to do it with other people. And so that's really all it is. That's why I feel so, that's actually the fuel, because where I was doing activism out of anger, like, fuck these people, it's crazy. I would say fuck white people, but some of my closest friends were white. And so that was already dissonance. It's like, Ruben, that doesn't make sense, bro. Like, you can't be saying that. You got homies who are white and you love them deeply. But again, the illusion of separation, I had to deal with that. And once that hit me, that, oh my God, we're all souls walking around in body bags, just trying to figure it out, going home, the same place. It hit me. I was like, oh, Ruben, this is a journey of connection. And so it's about love for me. And that can look like speaking, that can be the psychology, that can be the music. Any group that I've formed, the musicians that I'm with, they know I'm passionate about it because there's energy in music. Music, sports, that's what's cool about what you all do. These are some of the few avenues that we have that transcend separation many times. It doesn't mean that oppression's not in them, but it has the potential. Look at this group. All these different shades in this space, like, it has a way of transcending separation, and so that's what I'm about, and so yeah, it's a love mission.
Yeah, you put that off, and it's received. I'll definitely
Thanks,
say,
man. I appreciate that, Ryan.
You're on the right path.
Thank you.
Follow-up question: humans with a Y. Why? It looks like you dropped out there for a second. Do you hear me?
I heard you, but I'm confused.
So when
why?
Yeah, humans with a Y.
Oh. When you were saying that, I'm like, humans with a Y. I'm like, what is their Y? Everybody should be figuring.
Everybody has a Y.
Oh, so I love this. This is. Thank God, I thought you would never ask. So yeah, I spell humans HUMYN. And this is something that Black women put me on. But I also did when I was teaching, because everybody inevitably was like, you spelled that wrong. I'm like, no, I didn't. And what I like is that it starts a conversation on sexism. A system of oppression that advantages men and disadvantages women, through prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination. And so this oppression stuff is insidious, y'all. It's in our symbols. And so it's interesting that man is a part of human, or his is a part of history, and then men write history. And so it's just interesting how our symbols also recapitulate this oppression. And so it's a conversation starter for me.
What's interesting, I noticed, I don't know if you did this intentionally, and I almost felt that you did, but in one of your, I think it was number 5, or I forget which one, you actually spelt it with an A.
Oh yeah.
Did you notice you did that? Was that intentional, or?
I go back and forth depending on the audience.
Okay.
How out there, some people think I'm dumb and can't spell. Some people get it. Some people, whatever. I mean, I'm just all about creating opportunities for people to grow.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you, since we've gone in so much depth on just race and race relations, do you believe that there's any difference between Black Lives Matter, the movement, and the organization?
Yes and no. Um, I think Black Lives Matter. One, that just is a thing. Like, whether you call it an organization or not, Black lives do matter. Like, so theoretically, that's there before any of this started. And I think the organization, along with the activists and Ferguson, which obviously there's tension now between those different groups, they created a social movement that humans bought into for whatever reason, the timing. And um, so the movement and the organization, they're similar in that way, because I don't think without the structure of the organization, and even that the black woman, I forgot her name, but the black woman who came up with the slogan in that tweet and publicized it, like, they needed each other in some ways. So I don't see how you could separate them. And I think they're separated. And actually, given what we're learning about how money is floating, and it's very touchy because I don't
I was
know
gonna ask
enough. I don't know enough to like side with it. All I know is that interesting things happen when money gets involved in activist work, and so I'm glad that people are asking questions, because again, questions begin the journey to truth. And when I look at when I look and study the Black Panther Party, it was people focused, and you could see that in what people were learning and how people. I mean, it's so hard to think that less than 60 years ago, Black people did not feel powerful as a collective. They were still getting called Negroes and niggas in the streets. And so that the Black Panther Party really gave Black folks permission, and the people of the Black Panther Party, not even people who are just tangentially related to it, gave Black folks a lot of pride. Like, they had a lot of structure for the change that they wanted in Black communities. People were on the ground. And I'm not saying that's not happening with Black Lives Matter. And we got a lot of Black issues that I would love to see more traction on. We got a lot of internalized trauma, a lot of internalized racism, white supremacy, a lot of self-hatred. And I want to see folks get busy on that.
Yeah.
Just a real quick thing from the comments. Cassie Wright says, "Thanks for changing the world with your love and light, Reuben."
Oh, hey Cassie, thank you so much.
So just a quick 2 cents on that. Like, I think it was a bit disheartening to hear that the woman had bought the $1.4 million mansion, simply because I haven't necessarily, because when a person raises that, obviously they're entitled to a salary, right? But I think what you said was pivotal about how the Black Panther organization was actually out there touching the people. And I don't necessarily see that with the BLM organization. I don't know where that $90 million is going. I almost feel like they should just do a reparations project and just take that money and or put it towards like a black business fund. Because I mean, she shouldn't. No salary would be able to get you $1.4 million house. So I mean, but like you said, we don't know enough yet. So
this is the counter argument. The counter argument. I don't even know if it's counter, but the other idea is that there can be an expectation that activists, the people who are engaging in change process, even psychologists, helpers, shouldn't get paid or shouldn't get money. And I don't, who's to say that 1.4 million is a lot of money? I think it's a lot of money, but relative to, some of these Fortune 500 company CEOs, that's nothing. And so, I mean, especially, I don't know if y'all saw the houses. One of them houses looked like it could be in the Trap in Augusta.
It wasn't that big. It wasn't huge. It was just the price tag.
It's Cali, so it's all relative. So, that's why I'm very careful with how I talk about it, and blaming, shaming, guilting, because I don't know. I hope people's hearts and intentions are in the right place. But all I know, I'm outcome focused, and I know that we got a lot of issues that I haven't seen any organization effectively address on wide scale. I think there are individual efforts, but Black Lives Matter still has the potential. Well, I don't know. I think maybe they're losing some credibility, but they could still do good work if they wanted
Black
to.
lives do still matter at the end of
Always.
the day.
Without a deep dive into it, Ruben, because I know, again, this could take up a whole episode. What are some of those issues?
With Black folks? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I know, if I say it like this, all right, I'm not going to say black on black crime because I know that that's loaded and it's triggering. But
that's the other side's first response.
Yeah, but
real, though. It's true.
And when I'm with Black folks alone, and not white folks, we're gonna give you a pass, Ryan. Like this, I talk about it because you look at Chicago, it's the Wild Wild West, and like the numbers don't lie. There is an issue in our community. There's an issue in a lot of communities, but our community, the
percentage, it's huge.
But there's a lot more the socioeconomic things that go along with that.
Sure, for sure.
But I mean, I find like I think it was Michael Jai White that said it. He was like, socioeconomically, the poor white communities commit significantly more crime, and it's unfortunately the black community there's so large percentage of the black community that is, lower middle class and poor, that's part of the reason why you see so much in the black community.
Yeah, and this is not shaming, blaming, guilting Black folks. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why we kill each other, namely racism, white supremacy. Like, if I don't see that your humanity is just like mine and I see you as inferior, that's a form of racism, and that's taught. Mm-hmm. Kids, I mean...
Say that one more time. I don't know if y'all see...
Yeah, hold on. What did I say? I said, when you can't see the humanity in another Black person, you see them as an inferior. That's a reiteration of racism, white supremacy. You're reenacting racism against your own kind because you don't see the humanity in them. That's an issue. Mm-hmm. It's a form of racism, but we don't talk about it like that.
But it's also,
isn't it semi-enabled though through? If a person were to feel that feeling, there's potential that they have that through conditioning.
It's all learned.
That the person that they think that about isn't to be trusted, because there's always that possibility as well, right?
I mean, yeah, there's that saying that all skin folks ain't your kin folks, but I mean, the music. We could just stop there. The music. What other group of people do you hear talking about themselves and their women like this? It hurts me. And don't get it twisted. Like, I listen to Boosie Boo and all of them. And there's a dissonance with it now because I know that these messages are fueling the same things that are tearing our communities apart. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, obviously it's violence, it's self-hatred, it's trauma. A lot of it's trauma. Like, I mean, from the ways we eat to the ways we take care of ourselves to the ways we utilize our resources and or don't. Like, I would love to see more people who look like us in therapy. Granted, there's a lot of obstacles for us getting into therapy, a lot of therapists who aren't helpful, but if it's there and you got access to it, how long are you going to let that stigma and shame against healing and mental health prevent you, Yeah. So I could go on and on, Ryan. You told me not to go deep. Just me deep.
No, but I feel it's there's a lot of things that start with the person. It starts with us. Yes. It starts with you. And when people say us, it's like they feel like you're putting it on but it starts with you. That's the best way to put it.
Yes. Your Black history, Ryan, your anti-racist white history. You know what I'm saying? I'm Black history just by virtue of me living my best life. And so I think it's easy to get overwhelmed and say, oh, I got to change everything for all Black people. Start with you first. And that's what my journey is about. Starting with me, my healing, my stuff, learning how to love myself as a Black person, as a man, as a full human. Because once I'm doing that, the extension, everything that I have to give is rich. And it's practice and rehearse. Like, I know what love feels like and I know how to give it now. Whereas if I'm just trying to love and take care of everybody else for myself, that's a form of faux love because you haven't practiced it on yourself.
Right. So, and I love how you sort of started this part of the segment with how you sort of admitted that you've struggled with some of these things in the past and got over them, because I think it's important for people to know that, you know, even though you might be racist right now or something, you can still, there's a chance for you to get understand through that. You know what I mean? You can understand yourself through that. You know, so there's always room to grow. And with that, I want to sort of talk about this. So you started your 5 minute quickie series recently.
Give us the intro real quick.
Fairly recently.
Welcome to 5 Minute Quickies with Dr. Reuben. Where in 5 minutes or less, I'm doing my best to help humans reach their innate potential by planting seeds for learning and exploration. And today's topic is fish and grits.
Oh, that was great. So I want to know what that tag is so cool. I love it. I look forward to it. What was the inspiration behind this, and then going forward, like what kind of response have you received, and where do you hope you will go with this spirited series, just in the short term and the long term?
I appreciate you giving 5 Minute Quickie series some love. So since I've been done with school, and I haven't been teaching in a traditional university since maybe 2018, I've missed that teaching, like that classroom vibe. And even the way I taught wasn't like a university classroom. It was really like, I don't know, it was a whole experience. It's like a spiritual experience, like creating spaces.
Natural.
Well, okay, there it goes, natural. It just felt like humans being humans. And so I was missing that, you know, I got a lot of ideas and I can't always express them at work for a variety of reasons, because sometimes they're just going to go over people's heads, or it's not always the perfect time to bring certain things up. And it can be it feels kind of isolating sometimes. It's like, I want to talk. I have some friends I can talk to about these things. And it's like, I know these ideas can help people. So how can I get them out there? And I've been sitting on, all right, Ruben, you got to put content out at some point. Like, you know that you're not trying to be working for people. You know you got to build a brand. But I think I was getting into some of that perfectionism of like, all right, I got to have the perfect technology. I got to have the perfect laptop to edit the film. And it was like, Ruben, no. Use this iPhone 6S Plus. Actually, I didn't even use it. I think I used my work computer. Oh, I hope they don't fire me at work. I used my work computer for the first episode because it was like, Ruben, you just got to get one out. Get it out. It doesn't, and if you look at that first one, even the way I said the script, and I didn't even have the complete script written. I was like, I want to think about everything. But I just did it. And the quality is so terrible in that first video. But the idea was to get these ideas out of my head. And I think I made it 5 minutes because I didn't want to edit. Like, I did not want to edit. It was like, I got to get this in this one take. And I knew that would help me work on my speaking skill, which is something that I wanted to find a way to develop it between speaking gigs. And so every week, this is almost like a mini speaking engagement I have. And so 2 birds with 1 stone there. And, many people like sex and it's provocative. And, I'm a sensual human. I don't think sensuality always has to be sexual. And so that was the quickie part. It's like, everybody knows what a quickie is. Most people, not everybody.
It's provocative.
Yeah, it's provocative. And this content is provocative. Like, it instead of it just being physical gratification, this is, like Ryan said, it's holistic, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. And, like anything that you start, and I'm so glad that I'm not attached to the likes and stuff, because, sometimes I'll get like, 7 likes and like 20, 30 views, or even my YouTube likes, maybe they'll go up after this, but it's not like viral content. I think at some point something's going to go viral, maybe. But that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for the 1 or 2 people who watch it, because who knows what those 1 or 2 people do with the content. And so I think people are enjoying it. What people don't know is, well, I did explain this in that first episode, but I reached out to everybody who reached out to me on my birthday and asked them what would they want to see, like what content would they want to see. And so it's really generated by the people who follow me and who know me. And so every once in a while, I think after episode 10, I'm gonna like reach out to folks and do the same thing again to keep it relevant.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna keep doing it and keep seeing, keep exploring different ways that I can continue to connect with as many people as I can.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
And
So
I appreciate the support.
oh yeah, for sure. I repost it. It's just good content, because it's
Very good.
it's coming from a brilliant mind.
Oh,
So, um, if we could sort of another three-dimensional top-down kind of question, if you could sort of look back at your journey, is there anything along the way that you might have done differently or changed at this point? I know we're still early. We're super early in the timeline, but just at this point.
I don't go down this road too often. I think everything was divinely timed. I don't believe in coincidences. I think everything needed to happen exactly how it happened. Um, from me coming over to y'all's house and playing video games to, me moving to Augusta, getting cut, everything was happening and building on itself. And that's why I don't even use good or bad. I just experience things as they come and as they are, because who knows how they're shaping me and teaching me. And so again, that's where that questioning always comes in. It's like, I don't know why this is happening. This is uncomfortable. I'm feeling fear. I'm annoyed. And what is this teaching me about myself? And how is this preparing me for something else? So nothing. I would change nothing.
That reminds me of the. I don't want to try and retell it, but it's a perspective story, and it's the old man and the maybe. I don't know if you've heard that. An old man loses his horse. The villagers come in like, oh my God, this is terrible. I can't believe your horse ran away. And he says, maybe. And then the next day, that horse comes back with seven more horses with him, and they're like, oh my God, it's such a good thing. I can't believe, it came back with 7 more. And he's like, maybe. The next day, his son falls off the horse, breaks his arm. They're like, oh my God, that's terrible. And he says, maybe. And then the next day, the military comes trying to recruit him, and then they can't recruit his son because he's not able-bodied. Like that, they say it's a great thing. And he says, maybe, but it's all about perspective. There's more to it. It keeps going, but that's a very good, very good perspective to take with it. Because, and I was going to ask you the next question, and I think you kind of answer that with that. But we'll tie it into your teaching thing. If you could teach one person one thing, or everybody one thing, or what is your favorite thing to teach? I'll give you a 2 ways you can go with this. What would it be? And I know that's a big thing, especially with the way you approach.
Well, if I had one lesson to teach one person, it would be to stop looking for whatever you're looking for outside of you and see it already being present in yourself. Stop the search. It's already in you. A lot of folks look for happiness, joy, their meaning, their why, and it's already there if you just stop. So that's the one lesson. If I had one lesson to teach, my favorite thing to teach is love. And I used to call it diversity and social justice, but it hit me as no, it's actually more about love. It's less about inequity and oppression. And I know those things and I'm versed in them. And I think it's helpful to know. Actually, it's important for me to know about those things so I can know the things that separate humans and they create obstacles for connection. But ultimately, my passion is love and teaching love. And that's part of it, teaching about the things that separate us. So, my curriculum will be a love-based curriculum.
I definitely feel that. That's one of my philosophies. Unlike, when I deal with people who might have a difference of opinion, I often come from a point of love, because at the end of the day, you're more likely to draw someone or guide someone with love than you are, with just anger and or passion and whatnot. So, but so we're wrapping up the interviews. So, is there anything else that you would just like to share with the viewers and us?
Yeah, a couple things. couple things, three things I think. Gratitude. I really appreciate this interview. The questions, I think they were well thought out. I love what you all are doing for so many people. So thank you all for letting me be a part of that. The other thing is for the audience. When you put your mind to something, not many things can stop you. And so I want to encourage folks to start their healing process and really get creative and courageous about what kind of world we want to live in. Because I know very clear on the type of world I want to live in and the type of love I want to experience. And every day I wake up, I align my actions to that vision and those values. So I want to invite other people to do that. And if individuals and organizations are struggling to do that, I would gladly support you for the right fee. Especially if you're an organization, give me your money. But again, I in graduate school I did so much free labor. I had to really go through a healing process about my worth. It's like, Ruben, you could do that for free, but why would you? Because you not only do you have value, but the content that you're giving them is adding value to them. Like you need to charge, and if you don't, that's not self-loving. So that's why I'm passionate about that, and I can smile about it. And then I think last is, I want to invite folks to follow what I'm doing. I know I'm on the Fish and Grits Instagram. My Instagram is BIGREUB 95, Big Rube 95. Twitter, you'll find it, or just go to my website. Reuben Falloughi, REUBENFALOUGHI 5. No, that's my email line. Reuben Falloughi, just my first and last name.com. And you'll be able to find all my stuff. Yeah, thank you, y'all.
Subscribe.
Oh, and the 5-minute quickie series with Dr. Reuben on YouTube. You can find, I'm the only Dr. Reuben Falloughi.
Literally when you type in Dr. Reuben, you're the first thing that comes up. Like when you go Dr. REU, it goes boom.
Yeah.
Like, oh dang.
So
got some equity in your name, huh?
That was great, man. I really, really enjoyed this interview. It's by far my favorite that we've done so far. It's just, it's good for us to, bring you in because you do have that history of sports, so you relate to our viewers and you can tell that. But you're also putting out a very important message and you're talking about very important topics and, very relative things, as many have hidden behind the a veil for so long. A lot of things are being lifted and a lot of people are being forced to look at things that they aren't used to. So, you're, not to use a war analogy, but you're on the front lines. You really are, because it's a battle out there, and one that many of us, including myself, who I view myself as someone who's very aware of certain things, but a lot of things that I didn't know about. So thank you so much for the work you're doing in your community, in our community, and all across the world. You're an excellent person to have on here and to talk about and to bring light to some things that a lot of people aren't aware of, and also just spread positivity. It's very refreshing.
Let me just receive that blessing. Oh, thank you so much. Can I say one more thing?
Go for it. Yeah. You can say as much as you want, man.
I know things are challenging out there, and I want to encourage folks to continue doing your best. Don't do more than that. That's impossible. Don't do less, because that's not your best. And as you're doing your best, you're trying your best. Try to be kind to yourself and others.
I've heard.
My name is Dr. Reuben. I've loved this, and I'm about to go eat something.
Much love. Happy 420.
I'm not celebrating 420. But happy 420 to everybody.
That way. Every day is a happy.
You got me with the double entendre.
All right, gentlemen. Let's get out of here. We are Fish and Grits, the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe, as Ruben dipped out on us a little bit early. But we are Fish and Grits. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, turn on that bell. And thanks for tuning in. As always, we are out of here.
And if you like Fish and Grits and all that sports shit, everybody, let me hear you say, oh, yay. Oh, yay.